Welcome back. In this video and workbook, we are discussing an age-old argument. Was the damage caused by wind or flood? In almost every hurricane, there develops an argument about whether the damage the homeowner has suffered was caused by wind and rain or whether it was caused by flood. If you have both types of damage, then how this argument plays out in your loss can have a significant financial impact upon you. This is particularly true if you do not have a flood policy to cover that aspect of your loss. This workbook will show you how to argue for the most beneficial adjustment if you're facing this situation. Insurance adjusters approach the wind-flood issue fairly straightforward and make a simple determination. They look for the flood line and assign all of the damages that are below that line to flood and everything that is above that line to wind. On the face of it, this arbitrary assignment appears reasonable, and in many cases it is reasonable, but it may not, however, be accurate. The reason for this lies in the fact that property insurance policies do not insure property. Now, for more on this, see the video and workbook entitled Insurance 101, Elements. Rather, property insurance insures against loss, and loss is a financial measurement that arises from physical damage. To help you understand this principle, let's take an example with a timeline. In our example, there is damage to property from a hurricane, and our timeline lays out the following facts. At 2 p.m., shingles start blowing off the roof and water begins to enter the house. At 2:12 p.m., a branch blows through an upstairs window, and lots of water begins to blow through that window. Water from the roof and water from the window begin to damage the drywall, paint, carpeting, and cabinets on the first floor. Now, in our example, don't worry about the second floor. At 3 p.m., accumulated rainwater and water being blown ashore from the ocean enters the first floor, and when the storm subsides, there is a 6-inch water line on the first floor. Now, when the adjuster inspects the loss, you would expect that they would arbitrarily assign all the damages that are 6 inches and below to flood and the remainder of the damages to wind. And at first glance, this may seem to be an appropriate assignment, but it's not, and here's why. Damage was occurring to the walls, paint, carpeting, and cabinets before the flood breached the home. Had no flood occurred, these items would still need to be repaired or replaced. The presence of floodwater caused no additional damage. That is, it caused no additional financial loss. While more of the cabinets, carpet, walls, and paints were soaked by the flood, no additional financial loss occurred because these items were already damaged by the time the floodwater reached them. This post-storm evaluation by the adjuster did not take into account the damage by wind and rain. Rather, it arbitrarily assigned everything to flood. In the real world, however, things are never so simple. The main reason is because much of the time the homeowner is not present during the storm, having evacuated long before the damages start occurring. They see the same thing as the adjuster and see no reason to challenge the adjuster's separation of damage into flood and wind classifications. Now, if you have sufficient insurance coverage for both flood and wind, it makes no difference. If you don't, then it makes a big difference, and you'll have to morph into Sherlock Holmes to protect your financial assets. Begin your investigation by looking at your own property, starting with the exterior. Make note of missing shingles, soffit and fascia, broken windows, missing siding, in short, any place where water would enter. Make note of where that damage is in relation to the damages on the inside. Then inspect your property inside, beginning with the upstairs. Again, try to correlate the damages upstairs with damages downstairs. If, for example, a window was blown in the bedroom above the kitchen, and there's evidence of significant water damage in the bedroom, and evidence that it traveled down into the kitchen, damaging the upper cabinets, then it's also reasonable to conclude that the lower cabinets would also have been damaged by water as a result. Next, look around your neighborhood. Are trees snapped off above the ground? Is debris scattered near your house? Tree limbs are much more likely to break off and become projectiles long before the floodwaters arrive. If you can find a few of your shingles, save them. You might need them for later. Also, if the water trail is not clear, consider having a water map made of the inside of your house with an infrared camera and a moisture meter. This could make a significant difference if, months later, the adjuster disputes your assertion. Many times, the insurance adjuster will tell you that you have to separate the wind damage from the flood damage. And my response is always, no, you don't. In an open peril policy, the policyholder has to prove damage. The burden of proof then shifts to the insurance company to prove the exclusion, and in this case, flood. You do, however, have to develop other evidence that will cast doubt on the adjuster's evaluation, but you don't have to do the adjuster's job. If you can show a plausible explanation of wind over flood, then the insurance company should give you the benefit of the doubt. If they don't provide you with this benefit, you can litigate the matter. In making your decision about whether to litigate or not, dispassionately ask yourself this question. If I were on a jury and had to decide between the evidence in possession of the insurance company and the evidence from the insured, how would I decide? If you would decide in your favor, then talk to an attorney. Well, talk to one anyway, because you do need to find out what your legal rights are, and be prepared to stand up for yourself. Regardless of the outcome, look for ways to minimize your financial loss. Speak with your accountant to obtain an understanding of the rules for uninsured tax write-offs, and then pursue those avenues as you identify them. If you have to engage the services of professionals, such as public adjusters, note that the fees charged by these professionals may also be tax deductible. Look for ways to avoid having the deductible applied to the claim payment. If you identify damages that are subject to limitations of coverage, such as money, where you've lost more than the company will reimburse you for, make sure that you claim the full amount of your loss. The difference between the limit of liability and the amount you actually lost will be applied against the deductible. If you only claim the limited amount, you'll be penalized twice. Well, that's it for wind versus flood. I hope you found this information helpful. This has been Benefit Bill, bringing you information that you can use to take charge of your claim for greater gain. Have a great day.